If you don't mind, sir, I'm just going to take a picture from behind you, all right? The vehicles, if you hear a click. No, I want your hat in it, just the side of it, that's it. Cheers, thank you. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to talk about composition in photography and how you can make an ordinary subject look more interesting with just a few simple tweaks. None of this is new, it's basic composition, but sometimes getting back to the basics is a good thing, as simplicity is sometimes so easily forgotten. And when you think of photography, there's three basic ingredients: light, subject and composition. Without light, you've got no photograph. Without subject, there's no reason. And without composition, there's no interest. And sometimes simplicity is best, but other times simplicity can be seen as ordinary or normal or boring even. Like a postcard, it's nice, simple photography, and its job is to show your family and friends where you are in the world, showing a scene that hopefully they're going to envy where you are. Sometimes. Find an interesting, maybe unusual angle of the subject that you're looking to take a photograph of. Where is the light falling? What is the light doing? What are the reflections like? What's the background like? Put all those elements into one, decide what aperture you want to shoot, what focal length you want to shoot, and then try and think to yourself, well, what am I taking this photograph for? Where is it going to go? Imagine that photograph being printed, framed and put up in a coffee shop somewhere. Might spur your creative thoughts in composing that scene at the time and making something unusual out of it. And these are the things that go through my mind when I'm taking photographs, how I can make this photograph look different. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's just plain awful, but it's all practice. And recently I went to a couple of different events. One was a motorcycle meet down the beach where motorcycle enthusiasts turn up and talk about leather jackets and spark plugs and all that stuff. That was a great place to take photographs. I went with a friend. And another place I went to was a 1940s day. And these events are great for building your confidence and also picture hunting as well and practicing your photography. And there's always photographers there, so it's nothing new that you're walking around with a camera. Sometimes it can be great just to walk up to somebody, give them a compliment and take their portrait. Build your confidence up with shooting with people. Do you want to get a shot of you, sir? Is that all right? Sure. I'm going to try and come. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, gotcha. Thank you. And a quick compliment can go a long way. And also sometimes if you go to these events with other photographers or just another photographer, you can walk around, take photographs, and when you get back you share what photographs you've both taken, and generally you'll look at his photographs or her photographs and you'll think to yourself, blimey, why didn't I see that at the time? You know, I went to the motorcycle meet with my mate Jonathan, and he took this photograph here. While I was focusing on detail on all the bikes, he took this sweeping photograph of this motorbike going past. And straight away I just thought to myself, crikey, why didn't I think of taking a picture like that? I was so engrossed in detail. It just totally, I didn't even think about it. But Jonathan was saying the same thing to me. He was saying, oh, why didn't I think of that? Just how it is, isn't it? But it's interesting to go with somebody else if you're going to do these sort of events. You can share your photographs when you come back and you can build ideas with each other. So there's lots of slight little adjustments we can do when we're taking photographs if we think a little tiny bit and just try and get something unusual, a different angle, being mindful of the background, being mindful of what's going on inside the frame. Take your time, because then you can study a composition and you think, okay, I can have that bit in that corner, I can have this bit at the bottom third, this bit coming out of the top corner, this bit I could just have creeping in at the right bottom corner and stuff. And also looking at the object and seeing what reflections are about. Sometimes people say to me, how do you always get your reflection out of your photographs? Well, take this Triumph motorcycle that I took a photograph of. You can see the petrol tank there. Obviously I'm looking at the name Triumph. That's the first thing that I need to work around. And everything else around that I can sort of move the camera until I'm quite happy with what I've got. As long as I've got the word Triumph in there, everything else you know, comes together. I'm looking at the reflections, thinking to myself, okay, I don't want myself in a reflection, who else is in the background? So it might take a while for me to take a photograph because I want people out in the background. In this particular case, you can see there's motorbikes there in the reflection, and if you look closely you can just see mine. And what I was doing, I was trying to hide myself behind the handle grip there on the left side. I was trying to hide myself behind it, so I was sort of really scrunched up, trying to keep myself out of the reflection. So if you work around a composition, you've got reflections coming back at you, it's quite easy to get yourself out of it. You just got to use whatever is there at the time, in this case the hand grip, and I hid behind that. I told you, you probably wouldn't even know there was a photographer in that reflection. It's quite enjoyable when you get into that sort of photography and challenge yourself, and you'll come back with some nice compositions, and the next time you'll go out, you'll have that in mind, and you'll think, okay, how can I change it this time round? What can I do this time to make something even more different? And if we look at our own photographs, we can always pick holes in it, and others can too, but it's important never to be too hard on yourself. I look at a few of my photographs from this event, and I'm looking at body parts and hands, and I'm thinking, why didn't I get the whole hands in these shots? Little things like that do irritate me when I come back with my photographs, and it just means that I've got to remember that next time when I go out and shoot. And going back to the photograph of the tractor I showed earlier, the trees coming out of the tractor, all I needed to do was get a little bit more lower down and I would have eliminated those trees completely. Some alien object sticking out of your subject isn't always the best thing to see. So I'll show you guys the shenanigans that I was up to at this 1940s event where I was shooting some FP4. We'll come back, I'll show the development process and also get in the darkroom and make a print of one of the photographs that I really like, which is going to be for a friend of mine because he loves Spitfires. And whilst on the subject of compositions, I've got an ebook out you might be interested in. The link is in the description of this video. And there's over 270 pages packed with various compositions, illustrations, photographs and ideas to help you with your own photography. So if you're interested in downloading that ebook and supporting the channel, the link is in the description. There's tons of information in there. Let's get on with the video. So I've come here today to a World War I, World War II show where I thought I'd come here and practice some compositions. I've brought out with me the Nikon F3 and I've also brought out a 28mm lens, a 50mm lens and also a 180mm lens as well. So I've got 3 lenses to play with, and inside the camera I've got Ilford FP4, fantastic film, reliable film, and I'm shooting that at 200, so no pushing that film, 125, so I'm not doing anything fancy with the film, just shooting it as normal. And the weather today is beautiful. We've got some amazing clouds up there, and also we've got some nice light, which is giving me lots of opportunity. The light's going in the clouds, it's going out the clouds, so if I want some light I can have it, if I don't want light I can wait around and the sun goes in. And when I say practice compositions, somewhere like this is ideal for practicing your compositions, you know, just getting different angles of things, getting different photographs that you wouldn't often maybe see. A lot of people just stand, you know, parallel to whatever they're shooting. You know, I might get a little bit lower, a little bit higher maybe, but I'm just trying to get some different compositions on some different things and make some interesting photographs. Later on I'll go back and print a couple that I've got in mind. Over there is a Spitfire and it's 75% real. The rest of it is kind of made up and built, and it doesn't fly, there's no engine inside, but it gives you a real insight into what those planes were all about back in the day. And it's amazing, a marvel, you know, piece of engineering, but that actual plane has been restored from original parts. I was taking some photographs with it. Now on the composition side of things, it was quite tricky because I didn't want anything to interrupt the Spitfire whatsoever. And there's lots of trees, there's lots of stuff going on here, so I found myself getting real low down. And then I had to try and make a nice composition with the propeller, which is where I was aiming. And it was quite tricky. I wanted to get a nice shot of the propeller, the front of the plane, a little bit of the wing as well. And we've got beautiful clouds up there, like I said. And I was in my mind thinking, how is this going to look in a print when I make a black and white photograph? So I think I managed to get around it. I'll show you some of those pictures now that I took. And I also used the Gopro as well to give you guys a bit of an idea of where I was and what I was trying to compose with. So I think I've got some nice shots of the Spitfire. But let's have a look around here and see what compositions I can get of some vehicles and maybe a couple of portraits of some people. I don't know yet. See what happens. After studying the plane for a good angle, I ended up on the ground looking up where I could get some nice angles of the propeller without any distracting objects. So I settled with this simple composition where I wanted one of the blades leading to the bottom right corner of the frame. I couldn't get all of this blade in the frame because of the trees in the background, and with this blade I wanted it to point to the top right corner of the frame, and it was also important to get the engine parts in as well as the propeller cone. Now this composition I actually liked. I was on my back looking up and I wanted to get the gun with some of the wing in the bottom left corner and the front of the plane covering the right side with the propeller filling the rest of the frame. It's a nice angle, but I couldn't get all of the blades in because my 28mm lens just wasn't wide enough, even though I was flat down on the grass on my back. But looking at the picture now, I didn't really need all the blades in the frame. Those two on the left and up there in the top middle, they're doing the job perfectly. Now this was probably one of the strangest angles. I wanted to keep the person on the wing with the blades above with bags of negative space for the clouds to fill, which they did. And at the time through the viewfinder it looked natural, but looking at the negative and when I scanned it, it just looks a little bit unnatural, yet interesting at the same time. And this is the last photograph that I took of the plane, where I tried to keep as much of the blades in as possible and yet still have that little tiny bit of blade you could see just behind the cone there, so you can see all four blades. The bottom right corner of the frame shows the gun and the wing, and also what looks like some sort of air intake. In this particular photograph, I wish that I did actually get more of that blade on the right hand side in the shot. At the time when I took the picture, I thought I had, but just very slightly cropped it out. It's still a nice composition though. At this moment I'd gotten some steps to reach into the cockpit where you can see all the instruments, and I used a 50mm lens for this photograph. It's nothing too fancy, just a photo looking at the dials, trying not to get any of the outside in. And I also freeze framed the video here and done some jiggery pokery so you can see this composition that I was eyeing up, but I didn't like it. It was distracted by the poppy on the door and also the barbed wire fencing. Without those distractions it would have made a nice photograph. And here you can see I'm stalking this poor guy, trying not to look obvious. I was hanging around for quite some time until I got the right moment. I wanted to photograph his hat from behind and looking towards the tents in the background because the light falling on his hat was looking really nice. It took a while and a few strange looks, but I managed to get the photograph.
Where's this come from?
There was a guy there, it was his hat. I just saw from behind his hat. I thought I've got to get a photograph of his hat with all the stuff in the background, but it just took a bit of time because there was sort of people milling around and I needed to get that old kind of look. So I just sort of threw him over towards the left of the frame. I think as I took the picture, the lady creeped forward a bit more. But yeah, it might be interesting. And this chap I walked over as I loved the way he was looking down, and as I approached him he looked up and I said to him, just as you was a minute ago, you was looking down like that. That's it. So he kind of play acted a little bit for me and I took two photographs. One was from a distance and the other one was getting up really close with the 50mm lens. I just loved the way he was deep in thought. I then saw this guy standing to attention, so I ran over and asked if I could take his photo. He was a lot taller than me and I ended up on tiptoes trying to get him straight on, but it worked out nice. I don't often have to do that because I'm quite tall myself. Do you want to get a shot of you, sir? Is that alright? Sure. I'm going to try and come. Thank you. And these guys were running some sort of enactment, and when they finished I asked if I could take some photographs.
God will retire. 8 bound, 10, 1. God will advance.
Get your heels together, Corporal. Get your heels together. Slacking.
And this one here I played on the guy's pipe, not literally played on it, making sure that I had the Union Jack flying above his head. And then I took a couple of photographs of the lads just chilling out. The beauty of a show like this is that you can literally walk around, you know, with a bit of politeness and respect and take photographs of whatever you like. Everyone is dressed up. A couple did ask me if I was the local press, but I just said that they were for my own personal enjoyment. A few emails were exchanged and I'll send those guys a few scanned images for them to keep. I've got a nice composition here. These two vehicles have got this war Jeep here and this old vehicle here as well. Trouble is, I don't want any of that in my shot. I'm looking at the background. I've got some fire extinguishers, some tents. So I'm going to try and get a composition here somewhere and get the two vehicles in. But again, keeping it timeless, so there's nothing identifying recent day. That number plate, I don't know, it looks a bit sus, so I'll try and keep that out. But let's see what we can do, and I'll be getting low down as well. I wanted to make sure I got the top of the Jeep in as well, just to give it some room to breathe with the sky, polarise the sky. You can see the car in the background and also the fire extinguishers, and I was concentrating this area for focus. So that was the composition that I wanted. I could have come up a bit more if I wanted to, but then I'd have that sticker in the window of the car, so I was trying to hide that with the Jeep. Again, just keeping it all timeless. Them fire extinguishers, I definitely want them in. They look good. I'm just trying to compose at the moment. I'm looking all around the scene. Do I want that back tyre in? Do I want it out? So everything is close. Now do I focus on the back car or the front Jeep? I'm going to focus on the back car with a bit of the Jeep lights in, 2 lights of the Jeep. Pulling back to get the fire extinguishers in. The sun's just come out, so I'll wait for it to go back in. Gotcha. So that's it. I only had a roll of 24 on the Ilford FP4. I've done all my photographs. I think I've taken some nice ones around here, but I must admit, I have found it quite a bit of a challenge, to be honest with you, with composition wise and what do I want to take photographs of. I've got a digital camera with me as well, so I'm going to go around and take some pot shots with that, but as far as film goes, that roll's done, and I can't wait to get back and develop the film and see what I've got. And get in the darkroom. Stick around, because I'm going to go in the darkroom and I'm definitely going to make a print for my neighbour of the Spitfire. And that's rewound back, ready to develop. So I got some nice negatives back from that shoot and some nice unusual compositions on that Spitfire as well. Like I said in the video, I just needed to get all the crap out of the background away from the photographs and just concentrate on the Spitfire. So those were the best compositions I could come up with, looking down up at the propellers, which I think is a nice feature of the plane itself. I've chosen one that I want to print, which is going to be one of the landscape shots, not the portrait looking ones. And it's the one where I said I had half of the propellers hanging off and a little bit of the gun turret as well, and whatever it's called. So I'm going to make a print of that one, and I've already done contact print as well, so I can have a look at some of the negs. Granted, they were a little bit overexposed, but I knew that because I set the compensation dial to +1, which means I wanted to do that just because I knew I'd be taking pictures of vehicles and underbellies and stuff like that, so I wanted to expose for the shadow areas. And I didn't do any compensation in the development. 510 Pyro's pretty good at holding back highlight detail, so I didn't have to do anything like that. So the negatives are a little bit heavy, but so easily to recover in the darkroom on paper or on a scan as well. And I'm using 10x8 paper. I don't want to lose any of the photograph at all, any of the negatives, so I'm going to be putting the negative inside that 10x8, so there's going to be no cropping or anything like that. So there'll be a little bit of edge on the paper, but I'd rather that than crop any of the photograph out for these particular negatives. And because it's quite a heavy negative, I'm going to use a contrast 0 filter, and what that's going to do is it will build up the highlights and it will just start to tickle all the shadow areas. So it will slowly build the shadow areas up, but it will build up the highlights more. It's a low contrast filter. So that's the one I'm choosing. As you can see, I've got the cone, I've got the propeller, I've got the blades going off. The blades are coming out this side. I've got the gun there and a piece of the wing coming up in the bottom left frame, which is a really nice composition. I like it. And I've got clouds as well going on. So I need to do a test strip. I'm going to make the test strip across this blade here. So coming right across here, so I'll be able to see the tone inside the blade and also see where we're going, how long we need to print for to get those clouds working. So I finished my darkroom session. I was in there from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon till about 7:30. I had to pack up because I had to watch the football, Spain versus France. Anyway, these are the prints that I made. I particularly like this photograph that I got here. You often see me doing this when I'm taking photographs. There's something big in the foreground leading off to something in the background, almost like a golden ratio, I think they call it, of compositions. But so you can see I've got that big handlebar going on here, massive lights, so it's real big and bold in your face, this motorbike. It's almost the main subject, but it's not. The main subject is in the background with the Spitfire and that guy sitting down. I think he was looking at his phone, but you can't tell he is in that photograph, so it's still timeless. And again, very similar composition with the Jeep and that old car, where I was using the Jeep here to try and keep that poster out of that old car's window. And again, the Jeep being big and prominent in the foreground, leading off to the old car in the background with those old tents and the fire extinguishers. And that is an example of just a simple composition. There was nothing I could do with that at all. It was just a photograph of a cockpit. You know, there was no point in. All I did was just make sure I got a focus on the dials. And I think I was shooting something like f5.6, so I knew that the other bits in the foreground would be a little bit out of focus, which is fine. But again, just a simple composition, just a moment where I framed up, got focused, took the photograph. This one here as well, I like this one, this old typewriter, you can see. And, you know, again, I'm mindful of what's going on in the background. I don't want anything to reveal that it's modern day sort of thing. So I got in real close with this typewriter, fading off to the background. You can see the Spitfire and a few other little bits and bobs going on, which is out of focus. And getting back to the Spitfire, I think that was my favourite shot, this one here. I've got all 4 blades, like I mentioned earlier on, a little tiny blade coming off of the cone there. I just wish that I'd got this one in. Whether as I was composing, it was all just about smidge. It was just fitting into the frame nicely. I couldn't get back any further, and then when I got the negative I was like, oh no, I didn't get that bit in, so I must, as I went to take the picture, I must have moved the camera very slightly, but it's no big deal. It's still a nice photograph. And then that one there with the underbelly, I don't know how you guys can see that, it might look a bit contrasty on your TV or whatever, but I had to get some detail underneath this underbelly, under the undercarriage there. So I just did some dodging around this part and also dodging on this part here as well on the wing. I wanted that to have detail. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it's given some of you that are not quite confident with taking photographs of people or taking photographs in public places. Just remember, these events are for everybody and there's plenty of photographers there. And if you're not too confident about taking pictures of people and you want to, just go to some of these events, because no one's really going to mind, and a little bit of courtesy and a little bit of you know, do you mind me taking your photograph, you look fantastic, goes a long way. And also for you that are looking for new ways of taking photographs, always look at compositions and different angles and the way that you can take the photograph. Look at reflections, look how the light is falling, look at the backgrounds, and just keep looking through that viewfinder in your camera, moving it, adjusting it, and when you see the right moment, hit the button and try different compositions. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. It's been rambling on a bit, and I'll catch you next time.